According to the Maliki school, you can make the intention at the beginning of the month for the entire month of Ramadan. You don't have to do this every day. In fact, according to the Maliki school, you have to make the intention at the beginning of the month of Ramadan that I'm going to fast the entire month of Ramadan. You have to do that in the Maliki school. Alright, who is required to fast? Who are the people that are required to fast? The person who is required to fast is someone who must be an adult. And the way that an adult is defined is someone who has hit puberty. Okay? How is puberty defined? We talked about this yesterday. For a boy, it's when they have their first wet dream. And for a girl, is when she has her first menses, as long as she's above the age of 9. Okay? If by the age of 15, you haven't had your wet dream, or you haven't had your first menses, you've hit puberty. Okay? So, if one has hit puberty, then they are required to fast. If they have not hit puberty, they're not required to fast. So, case in point, let's say there's a girl who's 10 years old, but she has had her first period. She is required to fast. Don't tell me, oh, she's only 10. No, she is an adult, and she is required to fast. Now, if physically it's unbearable for her, that's a different story. Okay? But she is an adult. She is mukallaf. Number 2, person has to be a Muslim. Okay? So non-Muslims are not required to fast. Number 3, the person has to be sane. So if somebody is insane, if somebody is mentally ill, for example, they have some sort of a mental fit during the day where they lose their senses. They don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're saying, right? And they come back into sanity. The fact that they lost their sanity means that they are not required to fast for that day. Okay? Number 4, the person has to be healthy. So if somebody is ill, they're not required to fast. But they have to make up those fasts later when they regain their health. Okay? Number 5, the person has to be a resident. If they are not a resident, if they're on a journey, they are not required to fast. They have to make up those fasts once they become a resident again. And number 6, the person has to be physically capable of fasting. If somebody is physically incapable of fasting, even though they're a resident, even though they're an adult, even though they're Muslim, even though they're sane, but they're physically incapable of fasting, they are not required to fast. Okay? And then if they become capable again in the future, then they will have to make up those days of fasts. For women, there are 2 additional conditions. One, they have to be pure from their menses. So a woman who is in her period, she is not required to fast. In fact, she cannot fast. She's not allowed to fast during her menses. She must make up those days at a later time, when she becomes pure from her menses. And a woman who is in her postnatal bleeding, after she gives birth, if she's bleeding, during her postpartum or postnatal bleeding, she is not required to fast. She cannot fast. It's not allowed for her to fast. Instead, she makes up those days at a later time in the year. Alright. What are the consequences of deliberately breaking your fast in the month of Ramadan? Somebody decides they don't want to fast. Even though it is an obligation on them to fast, but they say, you know what, I don't feel like it. I don't want to stay hungry and thirsty for that long. I'm going to have a company lunch, I'm going to feel bad, everybody is eating, so I'm not going to fast today. The person has no excuse, no legitimate Shari'i excuse. A person who does that, that is a major sin. It is a major sin. The Prophet ﷺ said that he saw in a dream that he was taken on a journey and he saw the punishment of the people in the fire of hell. And among the people that he saw being punished, he said, I was taken to a place, I saw people hanging from their hamstrings with the corners of their mouths torn and dripping with blood. So I asked Jibreel, who are these people? And I was told that these are the people who broke their fast before it was the proper time to do so. In other words, without any legitimate excuse. Okay? So this is something serious. This is something important. Now, who are the people who are excused from fasting and what do they do instead? Okay? Let's talk about these people. Number one, anybody for whom fasting becomes life-threatening is excused from fasting. This person is not allowed to fast. It's not an option. It is haram for them to fast. Because fasting is a life-threatening situation for them. Instead, they break their fast and they must make it up at a later time. And they do not pay any fidya. Because they will make it up at a later time. Alright. Those who are ill and they fear that their illness will worsen if they fast, or their recovery will become lengthier if they fast. Okay? They are ill and they're worried about these things, then they have the option to break their fast. And they have to make it up at a later time, and they do not pay any fidya for that. Now, what about those who are not ill, they're healthy, but they're afraid that if they fast, they will become ill. I'm healthy right now, but if I fast, I will become ill. I'm afraid that I will become ill. According to the Hanafi school and the Maliki school and the Hanbali school, these people also have the option to break their fast. And they have to make it up on a later date, and they do not pay any fidya. Okay? But according to the Shafi'i school, they're not allowed to break their fast until they actually see the signs of getting ill. At that point, they can break their fast. Number 4, who are the people who are excused from fasting? Number 4, those people whose hunger or thirst becomes unbearable. Somebody is fasting in the middle of the fast, their hunger or thirst becomes unbearable. They're falling unconscious, they're just going into an anxiety attack. It's becoming unbearable physically for the person. They have the option to break the fast. And if they choose to break the fast, they have to make it up on a later date, and they do not pay any fidya. Number 5, travelers. People who are on a journey, people who are traveling, people who are visiting a town away from their homeland, hometown, they are excused from fasting. They have the option to omit that day's fast. If they choose to omit that day's fast, they have to make it up on a later date, and they do not pay any fidya. Now, there are some details here that we need to talk about. First, what is the definition of a journey and a traveler? What constitutes a journey and who is considered a traveler? If I go to Makini Masjid from Plano, am I a traveler? If the answer is no, then what if I go to Richardson? What if I go to Irving? What if I go to Denton? What if I go to Duncanville? What if I go to Waco? What if I go to College Station? How do you define a journey? How do you define a traveler? And the fuqaha have defined this. And the definition that they have put forward for this, based on their understanding of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, is that the limit of the journey, distance-wise, is approximately 81 kilometers or 50 miles. Approximately 48, 50 miles one way. So if my destination where I am going is more than 50 miles away, then the moment I leave my city limits, I become a traveler. So let's say that I'm traveling to Houston. Is Houston more than 50 miles away? Yes. So the moment I leave the city limits of Plano, on my way to Houston, I become a traveler. Okay? Because my destination is more than 50 miles away. Now, how long do I remain a traveler? I'm going to Houston. I'm going to stay for some time there. If I stay there for a week, am I considered a traveler for the entire 7 days? What if I stay there for only 2 days? What if I stay there for 2 months? Okay, so what is the cutoff duration? On this, there is difference of opinion. According to the Hanafi school, you are a traveler for up to 14 days. If you are staying at the place for more than 14 days, then you become a resident the moment you arrive there. So if I am traveling, let's say, to Pakistan in the month of Ramadan, and my intent is to stay in Pakistan for 3 weeks, the moment I arrive in Pakistan, I become a resident of Pakistan. So if Fajr is in 2 hours, that means I'm going to be doing my suhoor and fasting after 2 hours. Okay? But if I'm traveling, let's say, to Houston for a week, then for that entire week, I will be considered a traveler because it is 48 miles away, more than 48 miles away, and I'm staying there for less than 15 days. So according to the Hanafi school, I'm a traveler for that entire duration, and therefore I have the option not to fast and make up my fast later, and I do not pay fidya. This is the Hanafi school. According to the other 3 schools, Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali, the duration is up to 3 days. If you're staying at a place for 4 days or more, you become a resident the moment you arrive there. So if I'm going to Houston for a week, that's more than 3 days. So I become a resident the moment I arrive in Houston. Okay? So it's 14 days in the Hanafi school and 3 or 4 days in the Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali schools. Now, there are some other considerations to also factor here. According to the Hanafi school and the Maliki school, you cannot break your fast on a journey. Does that make sense? You cannot break your fast. You have the option not to fast to begin with. But if you choose to fast, now you cannot break your fast. Unless you have a health reason, it's becoming unbearable, that's a different story. But not with the excuse that, oh, I'm traveling. So again, if I'm traveling, let's say, to Houston for a week, right? I have the option not to fast. So tomorrow I decide that I want to fast. Because I have the option. I decide, you know what, I'm staying home anyway with my relatives. I'm going to fast. I start out the day fasting. In the middle of the day, somebody presents a very nice meal to me. I cannot say, you know what, I'm traveling, I don't have to fast anyway, so I'll break my fast. No, I cannot break my fast. I have the option not to fast, not to begin the day fasting, but I cannot break the fast. Similarly, let's say that I'm traveling to Pakistan, but my journey begins, let's say, at 2 p.m. At 2 p.m., my journey begins. I leave the city limits of Plano at 2 p.m. in the middle of Ramadan. And then my flight is, let's say, at 5 p.m. And I take off at 5 p.m. Maghrib is at 8 something. Can I break my fast? No. Because in the Hanafi school, like I said, I cannot break the fast as a traveler. But if my journey had begun before Fajr, I have the option, because I'm on a journey, I have the option to not fast that day. Okay, so this is something important in the Hanafi school as well as in the Maliki school. According to the Shafi'i school, if your journey begins before dawn, you can break your fast if you're a traveler. If your journey began before dawn and you chose to fast, in the middle of the fast, if somebody presents that nice meal to you, alhamdulillah, you can break your fast. And there is no problem in the Shafi'i school. In the Hanbali school, a traveler may break their fast at any time, regardless of when your journey began. So there are different opinions on this issue. Now, enough about travelers. Old people are also excused from fasting. People who are very old, they have the option to break their fast, and they do not make up their fast because they're not going to get any younger. They're only going to get older. So they do not make up their fast. Instead, what do they do? According to the Hanafi school, the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali school, 3 out of 4 schools, they have to pay fidya. They have to pay fidya. And how much is fidya? We'll talk about that in a little bit, inshallah ta'ala. But for every day that they don't fast, they pay fidya instead. According to the Maliki school, they don't have to pay fidya either. So they don't have to fast, they don't have to pay fidya either, according to the Maliki school. Alright. People who are terminally ill. They're not old, but they are terminally ill. In other words, they have an illness that they're not going to get better from. That illness is not going anywhere. The doctors have said this is going to be your case for the rest of your life. And that illness prevents them from fasting. What do? They do not fast, and they do not make up. There's no way for them to make up. So they pay fidya for every day, just like the old people. And in the Maliki school, they don't have to pay fidya either. Number 8, women who are in their menses and in their postnatal bleeding. We said that they cannot fast. They don't have to fast. They cannot fast. They have to break their fast. In fact, their fast is already broken by the fact that they start bleeding. If a woman is fasting during the day of Ramadan and at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., she starts to bleed. She starts menstruating. Her fast is broken. Her fast is already broken. So she can go ahead and eat and drink like we talked about yesterday. And she has to make up that day. She has to make up that day later on a different day. And she does not pay any fidya. So now let's say in the day of Ramadan, a woman woke up for suhoor. She did her suhoor because she's not menstruating. She started fasting. Fajr was like 5 something. And then Maghrib is at 8 something. And at 7:55, she has her menses. Her fast is broken. She has to make up that day on a later date. Even though she fasted for more than most of the day, she still has to make up that day. Okay? Inshallah, she'll be rewarded. I have no doubt, inshallah, that she'll be rewarded for the fact that she fasted most of that day. But she still has to make up that day afterwards. Pregnant and nursing women. Women who are pregnant and women who are nursing a baby. They have the option to break their fast. Listen carefully. They have the option to break their fast. Nobody says that they cannot fast. If they want to fast, and they can fast without any harm coming to them and their babies, they should fast. They should fast. And there are many women, by the way, who can. But there are other women who can't. They're physically not able to do that. They will harm themselves or they will harm their babies if they fast. And every woman knows herself, or she can consult her physician if she doesn't know. Alright? But if the physician says, you know what, I don't see any problem, I think you're fine, you're welcome to go ahead and try. She should go ahead and try. And if she can do it, then it's better to fast on time than to delay it for a later time. But if she fears that it's going to harm her or harm the baby or both her and the baby, then she does not fast. She does not fast, and she has to make it up later. According to all 4 schools of thought, a pregnant lady or a woman in her postnatal bleeding who chooses not to fast, she has to make it up later. Okay, that's not an option according to the 4 schools. There is another opinion outside of the 4 schools. It's considered shadh and aberrant. I don't recommend anybody to follow that. Okay. Now, what about fidya? Does she have to pay fidya as well? According to the Hanafi school, no. No fidya is required in this case. But according to the Hanbali school and the Shafi'i school, if she breaks her fast because she is afraid for the child, not for herself, for the child, then she also has to pay fidya. She has to make up the fast, and she also has to pay fidya for every day. And again, we'll talk about the fidya amount in just a little bit. Now, I just have a little bit more left, inshallah. making up missed fasts. So the fast that we have missed because we were in this categories of people who are excused from fasting, we have to make up our fasts. When do we make up those fasts? Do we have to make it up right away? Do we have to make it up before the next Ramadan? Can we make it up at any time? The answer is that it is recommended that you do it ASAP. The recommendation is that you do that if you can, starting the second day of Eid. Because Eid is technically only one day. So the day after Eid al-Fitr, you can start making up your fasts. And if you do so, that's recommended. And you'll be rewarded for that. And if you can do it consecutively, that's also recommended. Okay? But you don't have to do that. You can delay it. How much can you delay it? You can delay it up to the following Ramadan. Okay? What if somebody delays it beyond the following Ramadan? Without any excuse. They had time to make it up, but they were lazy. They just kept putting it off. And now the next Ramadan is coming and they haven't made up their days. So now they're delaying it beyond the next Ramadan. Is there a consequence for that? The answer is, the consequence is that they have committed a sin that they have to repent for. But according to the Hanafi school, there is no fidya that is required. They don't have to pay fidya. But according to the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali school, they have to pay fidya now. They still have to make up the fast, but they also have to pay fidya. Alright. Also, for women who are making up their fasts from Ramadan, they need to seek the permission of their husbands first before they do that. Okay? They need to seek the permission of their husbands first. If for whatever reason the husband says no, then they do it on a later day. Okay? What if somebody does not get a chance to make up their fast and they pass away? Somebody dies and they had fasts to make up. Let's say you have a family member. They had fasts to make up and they died before they could make them up. What do you do in that case? According to the Hanafi school and the Maliki school, you as a family member have to pay fidya from their property, from the property of the deceased. If they had given a wasiyah before they died, that you need to do that on their behalf. If your family member before they were dying, they told you, please give fidya on my behalf. I have fasts to make up. I don't have the opportunity to make it up. Now it is your responsibility to take money from their inheritance before you divide it up among the heirs of the person, that you give a portion of that money for fidya. If you want to do that on their behalf from your own money, you're welcome to do that. But you don't have to. You can take from their money and give fidya that way. According to the Shafi'i and Hanbali school, it's actually permissible for the guardian to make up the fast on behalf of the relative. And in fact, it's recommended that you do that rather than paying fidya. So I can fast on behalf of my deceased mother if I know that she had fasts to make up. And that's better than me paying fidya on her behalf. But that's the Shafi'i and the Hanbali school. Now, what if somebody deliberately breaks their fast without any excuse? We said it's a major sin, right? We said it's a major sin. But what do they have to do now? Well, they have to repent, number one. But is there any kafara that they have to do? And the answer is, according to the Hanafi school and the Maliki school, according to the Hanafi school and the Maliki school, if they broke their fast, listen carefully, if they broke their fast, not omitted the fast altogether. In other words, they started the day with the intention of fasting, and then in the middle of the day, they broke their fast. It doesn't matter how they broke it, by eating, drinking, intercourse. If they broke their fast after starting the day with fasting, they have to do the full kafara. And what is the kafara? Free a slave, free a Muslim slave. If that's not available, and alhamdulillah it's no longer the case, then you fast 2 consecutive lunar months. 2 consecutive lunar months. And if you are incapable of doing that, then you feed 60 needy people for every day that happened. Okay, it's a very severe kafara. However, this kafara is not required for someone who never had the intention to fast to begin with. Somebody who was not practicing, a non-practicing Muslim for a long time. They never cared about Ramadan. And then they repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these Ramadans, they were breaking their fast. Well, they never started to fast to begin with. They have committed a major sin. They need to repent for that. And they need to make up those days. But there's no kafara from the Hanafi perspective because they didn't break those fasts. As for the Shafi'i school and the Hanbali schools, this type of severe kafara is only required if a person breaks their fast by sexual intercourse, not if they break their fast by eating or drinking. Okay? Breaking your fast deliberately by eating or drinking is a major sin if you don't have an excuse, but there is no kafara for that. In the Shafi'i or Hanbali school, you simply repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This severe kafara of fasting for 2 consecutive months or feeding 60 needy people, according to Shafi'i and Hanbali schools, is only for those who break it by sexual intercourse during the day in the month of Ramadan. Okay? Now, fidya amount. For all those people who have to pay fidya, what is the amount of that? Just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip this discussion. The fuqaha have talked about an actual amount of grain that you give. And you should know that the asl in fidya is that you give it in the form of grain, rice, wheat, barley, dates, chickpeas, so on and so forth. You give grain to the poor, you give it to them so that they can either cook it or save it or sell it. Yeah, they have all these options. Alright? But some of the fuqaha have also allowed to give a monetary value of that grain instead of giving grain itself. The Hanafi school allows that, and you can even make that payment in advance. In the Hanafi school, you can pay for the whole month on the first day of Ramadan. You can. What is the amount? Roughly $10. Roughly $10 for every day. The fidya amount is roughly $10 for every day. Now the last thing that I want to talk about is what are the things that break the fast and what are the things that don't break the fast, and will be done after that, inshallah. So what are the things that break the fast? Well, number one, if you didn't make the intention to fast, then you're not fasting. Okay, we already talked about that. Number two, anything that enters into the body from one of its natural openings, right? The mouth or the other openings in the body. If it enters the body through one of its natural openings between dawn and sunset, if it's something of substance, so not air, substance, that breaks the fast. So, for example, eating and drinking while the adhan of Fajr is going on. Does it break the fast? Yes. You can't say, well, I have time until the adhan finishes. No. The time entered, mashallah, some of the muazzins take 5 minutes to call adhan. Some of them take 2 minutes. Doesn't matter when the adhan finishes. Once the time enters, you stop eating or drinking. Okay, if you eat or drink after that time, that will break your fast. Number two, if you break your fast too early, by mistake, you were looking at the prayer chart and you looked at the wrong date. You looked at the Tuesday for the previous week instead of today's Tuesday. So you broke your fast 5 minutes before the time, by mistake. And then you realize, oh, I ate 5 minutes too early. Your fast was broken. You're not sinful because it was an honest mistake. But your fast was broken, which means you have to make up that day. Okay? Number three, smoking. Smoking breaks the fast. Number four, taking snuff breaks the fast. Suppositories, regardless of whether they're vaginal or anal, break the fast. Pouring something into the ears until it reaches the eardrums, there's difference of opinion about that. Some scholars said it breaks the fast, some of them said it doesn't break the fast. If you use excessive water to rinse your mouth and nose, excessive water, while you're performing wudu, such that it enters the body cavity, that breaks the fast. So you need to be careful and gentle when you perform wudu while you are fasting. Other things that break the fast, if you induce vomit, not vomiting involuntarily. If you induce vomit and then you throw up, that breaks your fast. We already said menstruation and postnatal bleeding breaks the fast. Childbirth also breaks the fast, even if there's no blood that comes. There is difference of opinion about injections. Okay, so nutritious injections, do they break the fast or not? Some of them say it breaks the fast. Some of them say it doesn't break the fast. Some of them make a distinction between intramuscular and intravenous. Some of them say intramuscular do not break the fast, but intravenous injections break the fast. Okay. Next one is very important. Okay. Ejaculation due to a deliberate act breaks the fast. Ejaculation due to a deliberate act. What does that mean? I let you figure that out. Okay. Anything that I do deliberately and it causes an orgasm, that breaks my fast. Okay? So, but if it happens by something that is not deliberate, I'm sleeping, I have a wet dream, and I wake up and ejaculation has taken place, that does not break the fast. Okay? Sexual intercourse definitely breaks the fast, and it requires making up, and it requires the kafara, as we talked about before. Losing sanity breaks the fast. Okay, things that do not break the fast. Things that do not break the fast. If someone vomits involuntarily, that does not break the fast. Having an orgasm due to something involuntary, like a wet dream, I said, doesn't break the fast. Taking a bath does not break the fast. Swallowing your own saliva does not break your fast. Even if you accumulate the saliva in your mouth and then swallow it, it does not break your fast, as long as the saliva has not left your mouth. But if it leaves the mouth and then comes back and you swallow it, that breaks the fast. So case in point, people who sew clothes, they take a thread and they do that to it and they put it inside the eye of the needle. Now there's saliva on that. Now if you do that again, the saliva left and came back and went into your tummy, that breaks your fast. Okay? But swallowing your own saliva, if it hasn't left your mouth, does not break your fast. Smelling perfume, flowers, etc. does not break your fast. Inhalers for asthma, if they're just compressed air, will not break your fast because it's just air. Okay? But now if they have other things in it, like moisture and so on, that's a difference of opinion there. Some of the ulama said it breaks your fast. Some of them said even that does not break your fast. Doing a blood test, drawing blood for a blood test does not break your fast. As for blood donation, there's a difference of opinion there. The Hanbali school says it breaks your fast. Others say it does not break your fast either. Using the siwak does not break your fast. Using the toothbrush, toothpaste does not break your fast. But listen carefully. If there are remnants of the toothpaste in my mouth and then I swallow that, that will break my fast. But if I spit out everything and I'm careful to do that, then brushing the teeth in and of itself will not break the fast. Dental work does not break the fast as long as I don't swallow anything. If I swallow the blood from my gums into my tummy, that will break the fast. Non-nutritious injections do not break the fast. Non-nutritious injections, regardless of whether they're intravenous or intramuscular, do not break your fast. Nicotine patches. Nicotine patches do not break your fast. Being in a state of janaba does not break your fast. Eating or drinking forgetfully because you forgot, according to the majority of the scholars, does not break your fast. Using kuhl or eye drops, according to the majority, does not break your fast. Kissing your spouse does not break your fast, but if it incites desire, especially for newlyweds, if it incites desire, it's disliked, it's makruh. But if it does not incite desire, just a kiss of affection is permissible. It does not break your fast. It's better to avoid, but it is permissible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Sorry if I took too long.
Let's have everyone stand up. I know it's tough. I know. I realize over time that even the chair, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. So there's a lot to cover, and mashallah, there's a lot that Sheikh Arsalan spoke of. Now, we are going to slowly get into the easier part, inshallah, and I'm going to give Sheikh Arsalan a break, because the next topic is his also. So I'll kind of hit the 9-step plan before we hit the, inshallah, the modern day fasting versus Ramadan fasting. So inshallah, when you're ready, have a seat, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. There's one thing in the moon that I forgot to discuss. I'm just going to touch it quickly. When you follow global sighting, what does that mean? That means that if the moon is sighted anywhere in the world and is authenticated and verified by the locals of that place, and it also somewhat corresponds with the course of projection, we accept that to be a valid sighting. Now, we are here in America. We are the last continent in the earth, right? Because you're starting from that side. We're past Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Arabia, Africa, Europe, South America kind of slips by us, and we're kind of more on the top. What that means is if the moon was seen anywhere before us or anywhere after us. What's after us? After us is Arizona, that whole strip up, Canada, and then of course California, the West Coast, Seattle, Vancouver, Hawaii, right? This is what's left. So maybe 97, 98% of the world is before us, and 2% is after us. Everyone okay with that number? Now just say, as next week, by this time next week, you would have heard that Ramadan has begun in different parts of the world, meaning Taraweeh has begun. Monday is, inshallah, the first fast. It is not preferable, it's not right for us to start our Taraweeh until it's our Isha, right? And Ramadan begins from after Maghrib. So we should somewhat refrain from making a distraction. Ramadan is not too bad. Eid is worse. When people start saying at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock, oh, Ramzan Mubarak, Kul Aam tu Bikhair, like, it's not time yet. They've seen it, right? Eid Mubarak for them. Yes, Eid Mubarak also. The thing is that they've seen it, alhamdulillah. It's great. But in the case of fasting, we're still fasting in Ramadan, right? So they've seen it, they've broke their fast, they've made the determination, which kind of tells us that we have 6 hours left, right? Does that make sense? That inshallah, we have 6 hours left. What do we do then? Unfortunately, the distraction that they've seen it, and we started saying Eid Mubarak, and we're planning, the ladies are planning, not we, the ladies are planning the chandrat, and all these things are going on, last minute shopping. The last few minutes of Ramadan are the most important moments of Ramadan. So what we have determined here also is that for the people who think that since it's already been seen for Ramadan in Saudi or it was seen for Eid in somewhere else, that we should announce it. We will not announce it. We will announce it once it's our Maghrib time. Does that make sense? Once it's Maghrib and the moon sightings have collaborated, because remember, if the moon was seen after 11 hours in Zambia, it's going to be seen more distinctly when it hits us. Why? Because every hour passes, the moon's age is growing, its visibility is growing, its duration is growing. Does that make sense? So the more it will be seen, that's not a problem. We're not gonna discard those sightings. We're just gonna wait till our Maghrib. So inshallah for Ramadan, the announcement will be made when, everyone? After Fajr? Maghrib, right? Okay, now Eid. According to this year's chart, the moon will not be sighted anywhere on the earth on the 3rd of June. Nowhere. Follow me on this one. According to the charts, the moon will be seen nowhere on this earth except a possibility off the coast of California. Okay? So now, based on calculations, they've already determined the 4th to be Eid. You must have got those emails from different organizations that the 4th of June is Eid. We again, following the simplicity of our deen and tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, are going to wait after our Maghrib, because before Maghrib we don't anticipate anyone announcing, right? Because it hasn't been seen. We will wait how long? This is where the question comes. How long are you guys going to wait? Another 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? No. In our document, we have agreed that 11 p.m. Central Time will be the latest. Why? Because 8:35 in a whole year, 8:35 is the latest that Maghrib happens in San Francisco. What time, everyone? 8:35, which is 10:35 our time. Okay? 8:35, 10:35. In 15 to 20 minutes, we can find out that there has been a sighting, there is a report, and thus we can make a determination. We have the flexibility to wait 2 hours. Saudi, Africa, Europe does not have that flexibility. They would be fasting the next day as it is. They're not going to wait for California because their suhoor has already finished. So keep that in mind. The one last thing I want to address, I want to dispel this rumor. Why are you guys so adamant on sighting? Because you guys don't do sighting for salah, right? It's a very good question. 2 questions. Why do we use calculation for prayer but not for determining the month? Number 1. Question number 2, why do we only look for the moon in Ramadan and Hajj and not any other place, any other time? I want to answer these 2 questions. Number 1, the timings of prayer are based on a certain circumstance. Break of dawn to sunrise is Fajr. Midday zenith to single or doubling of the shade is Zohar. Azhar is from the single to doubling of anything shade. So if you put this outside and its shade becomes exactly one length, it's time for Azhar. According to Hanafi, if it's double, it's Azhar. Does that make sense? Maghrib is when the sun sets, and Isha is when the light in the horizon, because when the sun sets, with it is orange, red, orange, yellow, white, 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 blue, 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 dark, dark, dark. So as the hour and something passes, darkness covers the horizon, covers the sky, and then it's Isha time, right? Now we know this is the method of prayer, but these moments based on the latitude, not the latitude, but the latitude? Yeah, the latitude of where the sun is at that time, these determinations can be made by calculations. And the reason that there's flexibility for this also in the religion is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ talked about the time of Dajjal. And he spoke that the Antichrist will come and the first day will be like a year, second day will be like a month, the third day will be like a week, and then the rest will be like the regular days. So Sahaba asked, how will we pray then, Ya Rasulullah? Because here they were thinking literally that one day will be like a year. So how are we going to pray? And some hadith are literal, and some of them you have to see it from a broader perspective. Anyways, it says that you'll calculate accordingly. Meaning the prayer is something that we will calculate. So if the first year of Dajjal is ongoing, we're still having the sunrise and sunset, it may be more a broader term than just a literal term. But when it comes to the sighting of the Ramadan moon, the Prophet ﷺ said, as we talked about, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Sumu li ru'yatihi wa aftiru li ru'yatihi fa in ghumma alaykum." So this is very clear. There are specific orders for it, and that is why we feel the calculation method isn't something that's viable. Last thing, why do we only sight for Ramadan? For those of us who don't know, the moon sighting is something that happens globally every month. Yes. For Safar, for Rabiul Thani, Jumadil Ula, every month moon sighting has been conducted to determine that month. So for those of us who don't know, it's not something that people wake up to in Ramadan and do. It's something that happens throughout the course of the year. And that being said, inshallah, we'll take your questions soon. I want to skip past Sheikh Arsalan because he spoke for quite a while. He'll be talking at the end on the fasting and dieting in the modern times. People are doing these intermediate fastings from 6 o'clock in the evening to 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're saying it's really good for their health. So why should we look at fast as a health regimen? Sheikh Arsalan will inshallah give us insight on that. But I want to talk right now about the 9-step plan. And before I go to the 9-step, I want you guys to write this down. It's going to be really helpful, inshallah. Let's go with the 9-step plan for how can I make my Ramadan a good Ramadan? What's my plan of action? Because alhamdulillah, we heard all the fiqh. Some of it relates to us. Many of it might not relate to us. Maybe we won't be traveling. Maybe it's not a sister, it's a brother. Maybe someone is sane and stable. They're not sick or elderly. So fiqh really is per need basis. But what could make our Ramadan good? Number one, even though we are 1 week away from Ramadan, and it's not preferable to fast after the 15th of Sha'ban in anticipation of Ramadan, but we find that the Prophet Muhammad fasted the most in this month in preparation of Ramadan. If you are not accustomed to fasting Monday or Thursdays or anything else, I humbly request, fast one day. Fast tomorrow or fast Thursday. Why? Because for the most part, people feel the first day of fast to be the most difficult. I remember being in many Muslim countries in many different Ramadans, and one thing I heard from many people was many people don't fast the first day of Ramadan. They don't. They're like, it's the hardest day. We're kind of just getting into a position where we have no choice but to fast the next day. No, let's fast one day. So number 1 of 9, fast one day before Ramadan. Because you want to understand the feel of it, understand the importance of it, embrace it. What I had told the sisters, we did this a few months ago, was to fast once a week to get in the hang of things. Number 2, so now you're fasting one day, inshallah, if you don't fast, if you're not accustomed to fasting. Number 2 is the diet. I would ask the brothers and the children and the sisters upstairs, please write down the menu of Ramadan and put it on the fridge. As I said yesterday, we have to stop making Ramadan a festivity. Parties, dressing up, catering, going places, competition. This stuff has taken us away from the essence of Ramadan. And when I taught the sisters this, I did not sense any disagreement. Because unfortunately we throw it on the sisters. Oh, we have to go to these dawahs and then we have to invite all these people here. Think about this. As I said yesterday, you're in the ICU. When we enter Ramadan, we are checking in to ICU of Allah. I am here to stay in Allah's treatment and care. My luxuries, my pleasures, my desires, my wants are out of the window. When you're in the hospital, you wear clothing that's not your clothing. Do you accept it, yes or no? Your back is showing for sake of Allah. You accept it. Number 2, you're given food or not given food based on their decision. Do you accept it, yes or no? You are put in a bed that's not yours. Do you accept it, yes or no? Yes. You are told to do things that they do things to you, are poking you and inserting things in you, and you accept it, yes or no? This is Allah's month. Let us stop this culture. I beg you all, please. after Eid, have parties for the whole month. Have it for 2 months. But in Ramadan, stop spoiling your Ramadan. We use the excuse of it being special to do special things. No, Eid is your special day to do special things. In Ramadan, keep it simple. Your suhoor should be simple. It doesn't have to be something that's cooked, baked, prepared. People shouldn't be waking up 2 o'clock in the morning to make breakfast that they miss their tahajjud or they even miss making a dua. Make sense? So make your menu, sit with your families tonight and say, you know what, this Ramadan we're going to make simple food, we're going to get by so that we can truly, yarhamakallah, appreciate this month and write it on the fridge. No expectations now, it's there. Does that make sense? Number 3, if you ever get a chance to, or you did in the past, to calculate the food expenses that you spend in Ramadan. So just say my monthly budget for food in my house is like $900, but in Ramadan it becomes $2,200. Why? Because I'm buying the extra meat and I'm feeding more people and all this stuff. What I want you to do is budget yourself. So you're going to keep within the 900. If you can, go to 800 or 700. Okay? And instead of the 2,200 which you use in Ramadan, because all of us spend a lot of money in Ramadan, I want you to do 2 things. 900 is my monthly average. Yes or no? Everyone's with me? 2,200 is what I spend in Ramadan. What's the difference now? 1,300 bucks. 1,300. What I want you to do is take your 900 to 700. Simplify your food. Your suhoor and your iftar should be simple. Right? You don't need fried things to survive. You don't need heavy things to survive. Okay? The fried stuff isn't good for your health as it is, especially on a hungry stomach. So you went down to 700. So now you've made that access budget that you use in Ramadan $1,500. You're saving $1,500 now. Is everyone with me? I want you to take from that $700. The $700, the other $800, put in your bank. Don't worry. But I want you to take $700. And I want you to feed fasting people overseas in different countries with the $700. Could you do that, please? In the $700, here to do dawats and to do iftars, you're talking about $10 to $20 per person. In $10, you could feed a whole family. There are people out there you can feed a whole family. You could give a whole month's worth of food to a family for $100. If we have this thought that we need to feed people, because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you feed a fasting person, you get the same reward as the person who fasted without any diminish or decrease in their fast, in their reward. Meaning, if he got 100,000 for his fast, I got 100,000. I offered him food. He said, Jazakallah. Now I got 200,000. He still gets 100,000. Does that make sense? Allah didn't take away from him to give me. He got his full. I got my full and a double. Make sense? But he said, a sip of water, a date suffices. It suffices. We have made our culture so strenuous that people are dreading this month. Businesses are making in this month, and that's perfectly for them. It's halal. I have nothing against it. But we have to create a balance, because there is no balance anymore, unfortunately. So now, your $900 budget went to $700 because you're making it a simple month, not an extravagant month. And the $1,300 that you usually spend extra in Ramadan has now become $15. You're going to take 7 of it, and in different countries, you will send money through organizations, right, to feed. Does that make sense? The budgeting. And one last thing you're going to do with that $700. When you or your spouse cook by Azhar the meal for that evening, maybe rice and vegetables, fish or a piece of meat or chicken, whatever it is, I want you to make a plate. I want you to make a plate and go outside, go to the lady who's the cross guard, go to your next door neighbor, go to the guy cutting your lawn or the lady delivering your mail, and give them fresh plate of food. Don't give them last night's iftar leftover. Okay? Don't give them the bones and the scraps. Give them a plate of fresh food before you can consume it. Does that make sense? Go and share this Ramadan with the non-Muslims also. Doesn't matter who they are. And I'll tell you why. You will meet random people, and those random gestures of kindness will instill such a love in their heart. And it will make you feel so satisfied in your heart that your Ramadan will become meaningful. Say inshallah. Inshallah. So again, simple food cooking. Before you and your family sit down, go and give it to a neighbor. Some of it, right? And then the money that you have, feed people overseas. If you want to feed people here, let's go to number 4. Number 4. So we fasted one day before Ramadan because we don't have a week to do it. If you can't do Monday and Thursday, it's perfect. Make the Ramadan menu and stick it on your fridge. Number 3. Calculate the expenses of your food. Feed someone every day and give the sadaqah to feed people overseas because truly they need it. Yes or no, everyone? There's people who are dying of starvation and famine. They eat the same pieces of bread and same rice grains every day. Here we're like, "Arey to chawal basa ho gaya, na basi chawal hai, roti sakht ho gaya, the roti is hard, the rice is stale." No, people eat that their whole lives. And it doesn't cost us much to help them. If you want to feed a fasting person, they're the ones you need to feed. Alhamdulillah, here in America, mashallah, we're good. And for those who are not, we have programs to facilitate to help people also. So contribute towards that. Number 4, if you want to feed people here and you want to invite people, I request you all to cut down the dawats to once a week, maximum. No more Thursday, Friday, Saturday hopping. You have to go from one to another because there's double dawats on Saturdays, right? And then Sundays, and then maybe a Monday, and then you need to invite. Could we go break it to once a week invitation? And I'll tell you why. Because you're going to start getting into a trend that you're eating simple, you're feeling refreshed, you're feeling strong, you come for Tarawih, you want to do your prayer, and then on the 6th or 7th day, you're going to go to a dawat. I promise you, you're going to miss your dua before Maghrib possibly because everyone talks. If you're in restaurants, there's no space to pray Maghrib, truth be told, right? And then when you're finished, because now when you started your iftar, your stomach was inside. When you finished, you had to loosen your belt, right? And now you're like, no Tarawih today. I'm late. Chalo, we'll go for Isha. Now your brain is, your shaitan in your brain is playing with you now, right? 20 rakat has become 8. 8 has become 4. And before you get up, you're like, okay, let me just go for Isha. And when you make the right turn to go for Isha, you're like, no parking. Let me go home and pray Isha. The reward that you will lose in Ramadan cannot be made up. Do you understand? The opportunities that are in Ramadan, you cannot make it up after Ramadan. A person misses a fast one day in Ramadan because they just don't want to fast. We're making fast into such a big thing. Brothers and sisters, Jews fast 25 hours. 25 hours. Why is 18 hours, 16 hours, 14 hours hard for us? Let us not teach our kids that fasting is all about feasting. Fasting is a difficulty. No. Cut down these things so we can benefit from what Allah is giving us. We talked about that yesterday. Number 5. Now enough with the food. We talked 3 of the 4 things were about food. Number 5. Right, get a journal, everyone. Go to the dollar store, buy a 1-subject notebook if you don't have anything at home. Because nowadays pens and papers are dinosaur things, right? People don't like pens and papers. Write a journal. My Ramadan journal. Okay? In it, you're going to write 3 different subject matters. Number 1, what do I want to get in this month? If you don't write it down, you're not going to pursue it. So what do I want to accomplish this Ramadan? I want to read the Quran. I want to pray at night. I want to find Laylatul Qadr. I want to give a charity every day. Write it down. Okay? Number 2, you write down what you want to lose. I want to lose anger. I want to lose quarreling. I want to lose cursing. I want to lose lying. I want to give up cheating. I want to give up hurting. I want to give up thinking better of myself. Write it down. Because remember, as I told you, it's in Ramadan that your vices will surface. You yourself will see the wrongs that you were doing that you never thought were wrong outside of Ramadan. And in Ramadan, your sins will show you the effect that they're causing on you, so that you may take those sins